US President Joe Biden says he has decided on how to respond to the drone attack that killed 3 US servicemen in Jordan, but he's stopped short of saying what the decision was. With me now is the former senior policy advisor to the US State Department's Israel-Palestinian negotiating team. That's Laura Blumenfeld. Thank you very much for being with us. And we've got a lot to talk about, not least the negotiations going on. But I just wonder first, it seems to me a very dangerous moment for the Middle East and for world peace. How worried are you?
Look, it's alarming but not surprising. This attack was in a sense expected. I mean, there have been 160 attacks so far on U.S. assets since October 7th. I think President Biden, he's on a tightrope, no net, but he's prepared. I mean, he has a kind of retaliation buffet of options out there. And I think that there are some that could send the message clearly to Iran, not to the U.S., as Secretary Blinken says, superpowers don't bluff, but without risking a wider regional escalation. I think it's possible. Yeah,
I mean, he said he's decided. Do you think that he will avoid a direct attack on Iran?
I do think he will. I mean, I think he's going advice that he's been giving to the Israelis, which is be strategic and be targeted and precise. So, I mean, there are cyber attacks, there are sanctions, but what I think is the most likely thing is to attack potentially one of Iran's weapons-making facilities. He said today how he would respond, and if he had decided, he said, quote, "They are supplying weapons to the proxies that have been attacking the United States." So I think there's kind of a hint there.
Yeah, I mean, Laura, you're breaking up a little bit. I think we'll persist because it is it's important. The negotiations that are going on now regarding a pause in the fighting, hostage releases and so forth in Gaza, do you think that will influence how Joe Biden does react to Iran?
Absolutely. I think that, just as we're seeing a little bit of hope in the battle between Israel and Hamas, it's very unlikely that he's going to do anything to wind up another between Israel and Hezbollah or the United States and Iran directly. You're hearing words like hopeful and promising in the negotiations in Paris that just took place with Qatar and Egypt, States and Israel. Hamas is now considering the proposal to do some kind of hostage for a pause in hostilities. I think there are 3 reasons why I'm optimistic that they will reach a deal. First of all, there's battle fatigue on both sides between the Israelis and the Hamas fighters. Second of all, I think both sides recognize there's been a little bit of an overreach in terms of their stated goals. And third, there's domestic pressure. You see Palestinians in Gaza demonstrating against Hamas for the first time, and Israelis, I mean, it's a sort of raucous democracy where there's demonstrations every day. Bring those people home, bring the hostages home. So I am optimistic. It won't be next week, but it will be in the coming weeks or perhaps the next month.
Right. And does that optimism extend as far as the pauses or possible pauses turning into a more prolonged ceasefire?
Well, I mean, the first phase is 6 weeks. And as we've seen, there's been willingness on both sides. I think as long as they feel like they're getting something, it could go on to 2 months and further. There's opportunity for diplomacy, intensive diplomacy by the United States and others. I think the ICJ ruling recently will also kind of be a sobering influence on Israel to take an opportunity, to turn a pause into an extended cessation of hostilities, leaving open the window for them to continue their targeted strikes, which they did before October 7th, and I'm sure they plan to continue.
Just 30 seconds left, Laura. I mean, dare we say that we may be, looking at the end of this in the not too distant future?
Well, I think part of it is domestic politics. I think that the United States, we're in election season. Biden doesn't want to go into the election with 2 wars, right? We've got Ukraine and Putin and Israel, and there's a lot of incentive. He's running on Bidenomics. You don't want Gazanomics with, oil prices going up. Americans care a lot about their gas prices, and that's good for ending any kind of conflict in the Middle East.
Okay, Laura, thank you very much indeed, and I'm glad we persisted. Thanks very much.
Thank you.